I'm Ricc Rollins, and this is Going Places. Don't you want to come along? Let's go. Hi, I'm Ricc Rollins, and welcome to this edition of Going Places. I hope your morning's amazing. Here's what's coming up on today's show. Take a look. We continue our conversation with Rosalind Rice about her book, The Power of One, and I'll reveal my word for 2023. Our pet vet, Dr. Nabuki's back, and we're talking about how to make sure that we're taking care of your pet's nutritional needs in an extended version of Ask the Vet. We're crafting with Karima in honor of National Ladybug Day. Then it's off to Atlanta to Cobb 2023. Well, we'll show you a preview of what menswear will look like in the upcoming seasons. And the Outdoorsy Diva joins us once again with more from her Baja immersive experience. All of this and more coming up on this edition of Going Places, starting, you guessed it, right now. Last week we talked about the power of one, and my cousin revealed her word, which was expansion. And she began to share with us how she saw that word taking form and manifesting in the simplest things and showing that that was indeed her word. Welcome back to the show, best-selling author Rosalind Rice, from the book, the acclaimed book, The Power of One. You know, we were sharing, because it's no secret that we're taping both segments, but I shared with you what Oprah said, that, and you talked about it when you said you have to sit in the stillness. And that you can't let anything disturb you. And she said, because you will miss the whisper.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it is going to be whispered first because it needs to come at you calmly. Let me tell you a quick story. When we opened, before we could open this store, we came back to the mall in February of 2020. Notice the timeline, February 2020. And I was ready to do this. I didn't need the investors. The Lord had blessed. I'm talking about a check had showed up, and I was able to do this on my own. And every time I got back in the car, I'd take a deep breath and I'd hear God say, be still. And I'm like, God, really? Hit a check. I'm shaking the check at God. And he would still say, be still. Fast forward, we're in March, the beginning of March, and I get a phone call from the mall, and the mall says, Macy's is closing down indefinitely. And I'm like, and so I'm sitting there with that. 2 days later, I get a phone call, the mall is closing down indefinitely. And I looked up and I said, okay, God, I get be still.
Yeah.
What if in the moment, I mean, God would settle me in the moment. No radio, no car running, no fighting crazy people in traffic. And all he said was be still.
Yeah.
And so, and it is in that stillness. It is in the stillness that you hear him. It is not going to be burning bushes. It is not going to be red seas. It's in the whisper. I'm sorry, cousin. I had to share that with.
No, and you know what? Let me just add to that. In our world that is engineered to distract us, this capitalism world we live in, when you sit still, that's resistance to the system.
Yes. Yes. And that's your word. That's your word, resistance, because you have got to resist the things that have even resisting saying yes to people that you need to say no to. We talked about that on last week. There's a sermon I preached, and it was called Say No for a Better Yes.
Yes.
And oftentimes those people, I don't believe that the blessing can come when there's some people who cannot benefit from that blessing.
Absolutely. You and I are both writers.
Yes.
We can write. It's not hard for us. We write. The harder part for us is the edit. What do you take out?
Come on now. Yes. What do you take out? Who do you take out?
Yeah.
You know, it isn't, and that sounds so harsh to some people, but there are just some people in this season of your life, they're not intended to go. And I hope somebody, if you think look, this is the season for you to go places. The show is called that for a reason.
Yes.
This is the season for you to go places, but because you have had to do this, that, and the other for some people, the power of the word no will change you forever. Because
Forever.
once you say no enough, they ain't coming. I forgot I'm on television. They aren't coming back to you. But somebody needs to hear. They ain't gonna come back.
Yeah.
So where do we want to pick up, cousin? Because honey, that was getting good. I had to kind of reel myself back and remind myself.
Yeah. So no, last week we talked about, just the why we do it, the ditching of the resolutions that we will make. There's this beautiful quote by James Clear that says, "You will not rise to the level of your goals. You can set whatever goal you want. You can make your mouth say anything. You're going to fall to the level of your system." So the one word puts this system into place for you to lean into that word. You're going to posture yourself, as we've been talking about, in silence so that you're able to hear that word and then see what is on the horizon for your life, for that day, for that month, for that week, for that moment, right? Because some of us have been in places where we can't go too far ahead. It's too disorienting what we're walking through. And so for that moment, God will provide what you need for that moment. So I want to take you all through discovering what your one word is. But before we do that, I just have to ask, I'm switching it around, Rick, reveal for your audience, what is your one word for 2023?
It is abundance.
Oh.
It is abundance. That there will be the very things that I know, not only that I need, but running over.
Yeah.
And when in the spillage, it will bless other people in the process. But the abundance for me, even if it's just an abundance of joy, an abundance of peace, and then we'll get to the rest of it. But I believe that if I have the joy and the peace, I can do anything and all things. And I had to really sit with that word, because all these words were coming at me, and it was in the middle of the night. I swear I heard it was just, and it was in my mama's voice. It said abundance. And I sat up and I thought about it, and I realized that was the word.
Wow. So I know that everyone is wondering, how do I get in on this? How do I ditch the resolutions and focus on my one word? So first, take a breath, sit in silence wherever you might be, and you might come back to this episode. Take that breath. I'm going to say a few words, and I want you to see what zings in your heart. So here are just some words that I absolutely love, but there are obviously so many words. So courage, victory, process, affection, release, trust, anchor, simple, equipped, shaken, govern, advance, seize, action, confidence, expectation, hope, preserve, relax, peace, harmony, joy, solitude, or love. What zings in your heart? What makes your spirit alive? Sit with that word. It takes time. Sit with it and just see what your one word will be for 2023. It's a beautiful discovery.
It is indeed. And I want to say to you, cousin, first of all, I'm glad we did that, because I could envision people gravitating towards a word. And let me say this to you. Do word study on your word when you get it. Really don't just take the word. Really look at why that word should be your word and why you are akin to that word. But to better understand that and to help you guide along the way, I suggest that you get a copy of The Power of One. With the QR code. Order a copy today. Rosalind will autograph it for you, get it back to you, and it will be your company keeper as you go places. And thank you as always. I appreciate you being here. Come back anytime. Anytime you're back, okay? I expect more this year, okay? Okay. More Going Places right after this. And Bodie is a
Golden Doodle.
And of course, you know Dr. Dabuki. We're glad you're with us. So, if we're going to talk about training, what's the concerns? What's the top concerns when it comes to training your pet?
So I would say the biggest one is my pet, won't sit when I tell them to, and the other one is when walking my pet, they pull me when they're walking. Those are the two big ones. So what I tell people is, in order for them to listen to you, you have to be very consistent, okay? And especially with your commands, and you have to do positive reinforcement. So when they sit, give them a treat, so now they know every time I sit, I'm correlating this with a treat, which is great. And then they love it. They love it. So I always say start there. And then the second thing, as far as the walking and getting pulled and whatnot, it really is like if they start pulling you, I tell people, stop, hold the pet right next to you so they know, like, unless I'm walking, you shouldn't be walking. Because if you let them pull you and you do that for months or years, they get used to it. And they're like, habits. Yeah, I'm just going to lead you.
Right.
So I say, guide them. Walk a little bit. If they do it, again, you stop, and you just keep doing that. When they listen to you and when they walk with you, again, give them a treat, positive reinforcement.
Okay. So is that positive reinforcement, that kind of leads me into where I want to go with house training, because I'm not going to reward you if I come home with surprises.
Yep. We don't like those surprises.
So how do we make sure that we have a pet that is potty trained and house trained and just really a team member in the dynamic of the family?
Oh yeah. So again, good question. One of the more popular questions that I get, and really, again, that goes back to positive reinforcement. If they potty in the house, clean it up. Usually pets have short-term memory, so you can't really, you can't really punish, like if you come home and you find it, you can't really punish them because they're not going to correlate that to what it is.
So we should not take the dog back to it and go, look at what you did.
No.
The dog's going, I don't know.
I know.
Did I do that?
Exactly. And a lot of people will do that, and they're like, oh, they know because they're putting their head down. But they don't really. It's more of your action, your tone of voice, that they're like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. So then they know. So what I usually say is, clean up the mess, and then teach them when they go outside, they get a treat. Okay. And so they start correlating that. So every time I go outside, I get a treat. When I do it inside, I don't get a treat. This is terrible. So that's usually the best format.
So are we then also using puppy pads or a designated area? I mean, I have a friend of mine that tried to teach his dog to use a litter pad.
So you can teach a dog to do almost anything. Okay. So if you want them to use the litter pan, to use the puppy pad, they can absolutely do that, okay? As long as you're consistent and you do the reward system, they will, because if you live in New York City or big places like that where they don't have a lot of areas to pee or poop, a lot of people do it inside, so then they clean up. But here, we have a lot of stuff outside, so we're very fortunate.
So, again, and it's about the house training, when you got house guests coming over, how do we get it to the point where the dog is almost, or the pets, period, not just dogs, we're not picking on the dogs, because I used to have a cat that loved to show out when the people showed up. So how do we get them not to react when guests come over?
So the biggest thing is that immediate, like when they get to the door, they knock on it, or they're there for like their first 30 seconds, that's usually when pets just go crazy, okay? So what I tell people is when people come over, have them in another room, okay? So they can't just rush the people or bark a lot. The other thing is, if they're already out and they're barking, have them go to the same location over and over where they get a treat.
Okay.
If someone shows up and they go to a place and they're quiet and they get a treat, if you repeat that, eventually they'll be like, I need to do this every single time that someone comes over. And so it's going to take a while. It takes consistency and dedication, but eventually it will pay off.
So let me ask you a question, and I know we got to go. But I used to let my dog come to the door with me.
Yeah.
Okay, is that a bad thing?
If they behave and if they do what you want.
Well, my dog used to sniff and make sure the people were good.
Okay, that's okay.
If the energy was right, he sneezed on him and walked away. If it wasn't, he stood there and was like, "You're not coming in my house." Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So let's see. So the last thing I want to ask you: what's the one thing that every vet wants every pet owner to know?
Well, it would be to really, from a young age, when you first get them, please rub their ears, rub their paws, because nail trims are like one of the most difficult things to do. If you rub their paws and their nails, that will help with that and desensitize them. Ear cleanings, ear flushes, really hard to do if you don't ever touch their ears because they're very sensitive on their ears. But if you do that from a young age, they will learn that that's okay. If they mess with my ears and my nails, it's fine. Everything's good.
Okay, so you bring up something, and I said it was going to be the last one. I'm like a Baptist preacher right now. I got one more close. But if I'm not comfortable doing this from day one, the best thing is to find a place like Royal Pets.
Yep.
And bring them here, because in that way I know that it's going to be done properly. Because I told you about the first time that I tried to clip Gil's, and it was not pretty, and he hated me every time.
Yeah. But no, we can partner with you and really give you advice on that, help you, or let them go to daycare, which is where we're at currently right here in our daycare area, or even hook you up with a good professional dog trainer.
Okay. Yeah. That's good. We'll need to talk about dog trainers and how to find the right one in an upcoming episode. More Going Places right after this.
Thanks, Rick. In honor of National Ladybug Day, we are going to make this adorable craft. You will need red and black cardstock, a pencil, glue stick, scissors, googly eyes, and something to trace that is round. Trace 3 round shapes on red and black cardstock. Next, cut out the circles from the black and red cardstock. Grab the 2 round shaped papers and fold them into half to create the wings for the ladybug. Attach the wings on top of the larger black circle, keeping a gap at the bottom. Attach the small circle, which is the head of the ladybug, to the body. Now it's time to attach the googly eyes to your ladybug. You can use any size that you have available at home. Use leftover black cardstock to cut 2 small strips to create the antenna for the ladybug. Our ladybug is starting to come together. Now it's time to attach those black strips to the face of your ladybug to create antennas. You only need a small amount of glue for this step. Use either your hands or scissors to curl the antenna. Use either a black marker or cardstock to make the dots for your ladybug. I decided to go with the cardstock, so you'll need to cut out small circles, then glue them to the wings of your ladybug. You can use between 3 and 5 on each wing. I suggest spreading them out, or your child can make a pattern with the dots. Make sure you visit my blog at craftingthefunlife.com for more craft ideas.
Good morning. What is your coffee saying? My coffee today is saying serenity. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Courage to change the things that I can. And wisdom to know the difference. Enjoy life, one cup at a time.
If you're wondering what the best dressed men in 2023 will be wearing, well, this is the place to find the answers. It's the Cobb Show in Atlanta, Georgia. 2 days of nothing but great clothing. Behind these doors, you'll find everything from casual wear to hats, chapeaus, if you will, and beyond. Plaids and more plaids are back again this season, along with business casual that will take you from day to evening. Any connoisseur can see that Cobb is the place to be. And behind every good design is a great designer. Meet Robert Lewis, one of my favorite designers.
With us, they're bright, they're bold, exciting, and just something different. We do a lot of tie, neckwear. We do jewelry. Our eyewear is off the chain. And then also cufflinks. We do very well with cufflinks and things.
Robert's right. Great accessories are key. And at the Cobb, you'll find everything from head to toe. Now let's talk to this guy because he says that hats are where it's at. Why do you think hats are still so popular?
It's a fashion statement. Just like any accessory you put on, whether it be a belt or a pair of sunglasses, your suit, it complements your suit, complements dressy, complements casual, and it just makes everything else pop with it.
Like our friend said, it's all about a fashion statement. And when you got the head taken care of, you gotta take care of the feet. Carucci shoes is a staple at Ricardo's. Why? Because it's a great shoe and it has a look. Let's talk to the designer, Tim Tam from Carucci Shoes.
They're up there.
Used to be,
Commercial.
what color did they come? Black, brown, tan. Maybe add a color, gray, that's it. But look at today's main color. You have 9 different colors to match whatever you have. Put it in your wardrobe and make it work.
And what goes better with great accessories than great suits? Moda Color is a front runner when it comes to taking the traditional and turning it on its ear, and then refining tradition and making statement clothing like never before. Here's
We're
why.
trying to be as much as unique that we can be. So we were not afraid of trying new stuff, especially the two-tones and the one with the lock. So that inspires us.
And so what do you say to the man who says this might be too much for him? Is too much ever too much?
Too much? I don't think with the colors, no.
Okay.
This is just fashion.
And if fashion is your passion, this is the season to try something new. Reporting from the Cobb Show Atlanta, I'm Ricc Rollins for Going Places.
On our third day on the island of Espiritu Santo in Baja California Sur, we actually didn't spend it in the water this time. We spent it exploring the dry desert landscape of the area. Our guide taught us all about the flora and fauna and history of the landscape. We took a hike into this canyon and we had to scramble up some rocks, and it was actually pretty challenging. But the views were totally worth the effort. Our guides led us deep into the canyon to this hidden area, which was actually a sacred space for the indigenous people of the land. In this space, we learned about the Pedicu, the original indigenous people of this land before Spanish colonization and invasion. We had a beautiful moment of reflection and giving thanks. This is Caralero. We went to a canyon, did some meditation, and it was gorgeous. Look at this golden hour sky. The sunset leaving the canyon was unbelievable. This was one of the best golden hours I've ever experienced. I was sad to say goodbye to Espiritu Santo, but the next morning we left the island and headed back to Todos Santos, and we had time to explore the city. There are lots of cute shops and restaurants and coffee shops, so we spent the day and then had lunch. Our last resting place of the tour would take us to Los Calibres. This is a gorgeous hilltop Pacific Ocean side retreat comprised of multiple villas, all with stunning views of the ocean. I was lucky enough to get the sea turtle suite. It's a very roomy space and well appointed. I loved everything about this room. That potbelly stove was such a nice touch. It was a very modern room with everything you would expect in a regular hotel. And the size of this bathroom, just dreamy. But of course, the best part was walking out onto the terrace right from my living area and seeing the ocean. After our final circle time with the group, we headed to dinner to Il Giardino. It's an Italian restaurant owned by Mexican-Italian restaurateur Daniela Borgini. I fell in love with the space because when you first walk in, the heart and soul of the restaurant is the wooden stone fire oven. I love how they created an open space so we can watch these magicians at work.
You're fine. ¿Eso es de las 7?
Just watching them work was making me hungry. I don't know what this is that she brought out, but whatever it is, I wanted it. We were treated to a family style spread so that we could literally try everything. Daniela insisted that we try pretty much some of everything on the menu. That bread was to die for, all the pastas freshly made in-house. To close out the night, we were taught how to make a special margarita. All the ingredients are in-house and locally sourced, even the liqueurs that they add. And of course, it was delicious. We departed the next morning, and before leaving, I got to see the Xanthusis hummingbird. That is such a treat because it's indigenous to the Baja area. Thank you to Root Adventures for this life-changing experience.
You can catch encore episodes of Going Places every Saturday and Sunday morning right here on Tampa Bay's MOR. And if you miss us on more, you can always catch us on YouTube. For everyone here at Going Places, be blessed on the journey. We'll see you next week. Take care.